Let's talk about the stories making the news. Look who's here. Andrew Pearce. Lovely to see you. And Samira Ahmed for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you. What
made you do it? You could have had a lie-in. Right, let's have a look at the papers. On the front of many of them this morning, David Cameron out and about yesterday talking about national service. Andrew?
Yeah, great headline, national service for every teenager. Then you read beneath the hype and the spin, and actually what he's suggesting is the hope that they could involve more 16-year-olds in community service. There's no money available to do this. There's no complete structure to do it. He's talking about a national citizen service programme. So far, that's been a pilot scheme involving a few thousand young people. Sounds great, but actually, in reality, where's the money going to come from to do that? Because the charities that might stage this are losing a lot of their money.
Yeah, and what he could have done is, instead of dumping all these people in prison at the moment, which is bursting to the seams, he could have done a bit of a trial run with some of these people who've been charged and sentenced for looting and rioting.
Well, it's quite interesting, just because the sentencing thing is the other big story that I think is quite interestingly running alongside this, which is the fact that magistrates emerged have been told to throw away the rule book and perhaps, you know, go a bit tougher. So you've got, and the Telegraph have done a nice thing where they've actually found all these Oxford graduates who were throwing bricks and so on at police. So you've got this sense of, you know, young people of many different backgrounds all getting themselves into trouble, and then suddenly an announcement about national service, and, you know, they don't really add up to much, do they?
But you have the news of someone, well, the opposite end of the spectrum, really, Lieutenant Daniel Clack.
Absolutely awful story and a terrible coincidence. 24-year-old was engaged. He was due back in 2 weeks from his latest tour of duty in Helmand with 1st Battalion, the Rifles, and was killed while on foot patrol by one of those, improvised explosive devices, and 5 of his comrades were injured. And there's a sense that here's a young man of the same generation serving his country. And I think there's nothing you could say other than, we agree. But
you know what Cameron could do? Instead of whittering on about a vague concept of a national service, he could send some of those violent, thuggish louts from the riots. Instead of sending them to prison, send them to the front line at Helmand Province. Yeah. That would deter them.
Yeah, absolutely it would.
The army want them.
Right, we're moving on to something that affects people every single day of the week, rail fares, and there's shocking expected rises in season tickets.
Up to 13%. The government are involved in this. This is because of a quirk in the inflation figures, because inflation was at a certain level at a certain month. It enables the train companies, which are already making a lot of money, to put fares up between 8 and 13%.
They say they're not going to make a profit from this, though, don't they?
Oh, really?
But isn't it it's a government scheme, isn't it? Because of the deficit, to claw back more money.
And the government is already subsidising these rail companies to the tune of £6 billion a year. Now it wants to claw some of that back. The trouble is, people can hardly afford to get in their cars at the moment because of the cost of petrol. Now they're going to be driven out of the trains, and this is all supposed to fit into the green agenda, which some of us are very sceptical about anyway.
Also, where are they going to go to work? I mean, you know, with more and more issues around jobs disappearing from outside the southeast, commuting is more and more the only choice people have.
Well, they won't be able to afford to go to work at this rate. I mean, a season ticket from Birmingham to Manchester is currently about £4,500. That's a huge dent in someone's wages, and that'll go up to nearly £5,000.
And do you think how much you've got to earn to pay that once you've taken the tax out?
Yeah, absolutely. And all this deficit, inflation, food prices going up, apparently affecting the over 50s more than anyone else.
Yeah, I was surprised to see this at first, and then I thought, well, of course, this is the generation whose children are probably now about to go to university, and they're now being hit by the possibility of massive increase in tuition fees, which many parents will try and help their children with. Children living at home.
And unemployment in the over 50s as well.
Harder to find a job in the current climate when, you know, everything's consolidating down to, you know, a core workforce.
And of course, if they had savings, they're getting no interest in the building society.
If they do have savings, I mean, who does save these? So many people say, don't they, my house is my pension.
And of course, pension rules are changing as well for people who are in final salary schemes. So who knows what they'll actually have in a few years.
Yeah, look, isn't good, isn't it? Right, Andrew, this is shocking, actually. Parents bullying teachers on Facebook.
It's a scandal, actually, because 1 in 3 teachers are now being abused on Facebook, and a quarter of all those are parents. No wonder children don't respect teachers in the classroom if their parents are piling on the abuse. I don't quite know how you stop cyberbullying. I'm not on Facebook. It's not really my world at all. But
the programme is, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm just personally not.
But the head teachers or someone has to try and talk to these parents and say, what sort of example are you setting to your kids?
Well, you get, on the one hand, you get the parents cozying up to teachers, inviting them around for dinner and things. Can you imagine that? And then you've got this other extreme.
My parents never invited my teachers around for
That's
dinner.
why you didn't do very well, Andrew.
There's a
They wouldn't have come.
excitement about anything to do with Facebook. I wonder what's the database on which, how many teachers are really being bullied.
Well, I just think teachers do such a fantastic job. And everyone says they've got 6 weeks off in the summer. They'll be working away. Lessons don't just make themselves up, do
But they get criticised when they go on Facebook and post pictures of themselves sort of getting drunk at parties, don't they? It kind of goes
maybe
both
they
ways.
shouldn't be doing that. Yes, exactly, Samira. Another scandal. My two are going out today to do some activities. My husband will be in charge of them. Consequently, they will not be wearing sun cream, and I shall be furious when I get back home tonight.
No, and I gather you're a parent who tries very hard to make them do it. I mean, it's like smoking used to be, isn't it? It's sort of, it's uncool to wear sunscreen. So I've done so many stories over the years about young people not wanting to do it, and apparently cancer rates are going up dramatically. I mean, the problem is you forget it's cool to be tanned. And I know I did a piece in Liverpool a few years ago, which is the suntan capital of the UK. You have to go and you have to be tanned or you're a freak in your class. And the reality is young people do not think cancer is something they'll get, even though the rates are going up very much for very young people.
I'm afraid when I was younger, I thought it was great. I wanted the browner the better. I'm afraid now...
Age spots, Andrew.
Absolutely. So I have sunblock on even this morning.
Yeah, so if you are at home and you're a youngster and you're about to go out, believe us, sitting here, not necessarily Samira, but Andrew and I, we baked ourselves when we were younger, and look what happened.
Oh.
So there's a warning for you.
You look great, darling.
Oh, so do you. Andrew, something right up your street, a heartbreak museum. I'm sure you'd have plenty of items to contribute to this.
Unwanted gifts from doomed romances. They've opened a museum in Covent Garden, and no wonder this romance ended. Somebody gave their partner a volume of Proust.
Lovely.
Would you want to read that? How romantic is that?
But someone gave their partner a prosthetic leg, apparently, as well, which is also
And another one here, a candy G-string, which is captioned, he was as cheap and as shabby as his presents.
Oh, should we leave it on that now?
La.
We're not talking about
you just burn everything when it breaks up.
Yeah, there's never a happy way to dump someone, is there? Or
just
a funny
burn
way,
it and move on.
Or to be dumped. Lovely to see you, Samira. I do hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
And lovely to see you, as always, Andrew. And as always, we really would love to know what you think about the stories we've been discussing. Bullying teachers on social networking sites, would you stoop as low as that? Have you been prompted to do that? Are you a teacher who's been the subject of that? And the failed romance museum, what would you donate, do you think? From a heartbreak, a dumping, what would you contribute when a relationship's over? We'd love to know. If you're over 18, you can text us on 67890. Texts are 25 pence plus your standard network charge. You can also contact us, although not Andrew, at facebook.com/Lorraine ITV, and do get your comments in before 9, otherwise we won't be able to read them out. Time for the competition.